Hello everybody, my name is Chase Folsom. I'm here with Stumpf from Frontstretch.com. We are here at Darlington after another wild Southern 500. We've got a lot to talk about, but we're going to start with the race winner. Chase Briscoe gets his first win since 2022 at Phoenix and locks himself into the playoffs. What a story.
I mean, from winning the 2020 Xfinity race at Darlington against Kyle Busch, who he also beat tonight, and then having that win really kind of set off his breakout season that got him into Cup in the first place, to winning here, punching his ticket in the playoffs, breaking his winless streak, and more importantly, breaking SHR's winless streak in one of their final 11 races. It's just Chase Briscoe had the race of his life. He started third, had an average running position of third, and with SHR on death's door and one foot in the grave, he, Richard Boswell, and everyone on that team just came together and just put together a flawless race, complete with him making the 3-wide pass to the lead. It was just an incredible sight.
Boswell told him on the radio late in the race, "You've got one more shot to give us a shot to go fight for a championship," and that's exactly what they did. It's really like a full circle moment, because you mentioned that Xfinity race. That's what propelled him to the Cup Series, essentially, because without that win, he might not go on that run that he had that season, and that season got him into the car that he's in now. I feel like it's also a prove-it night. There were some people that doubted whether or not he should have gotten the 19 car with Truex retiring. He went out and proved that he's worthy tonight. He had to beat the best of the best here at Darlington. He beat Kyle Larson late in the race and then holds off Kyle Busch. You can't ask for tougher competition at Darlington than that. It's truly a feel-good story. For that team that has so much history in this series, in this sport, to be going away. His family, his wife is expecting twins any time now. So they mentioned this is the last time they're supposed to be together at the racetrack. I really don't think the story could be told any better.
Agreed. And also to talk about SHR some more, this was their 70th win, so it was quite a big milestone for them to reach 2. And again, I think you said it better. I think you said it better than I could. They just put together a flawless race, and got better and better as the race went on, and when it mattered the most.
On the flip side of that, another heartbreaker for Kyle Busch. He was so close to making the playoffs yet again. Just like last week, comes up one spot short. What did he say to you after the race?
Obviously, he was very disappointed. I mean, who wouldn't be in that situation? He had the fresh tires, but he said that once he kind of got to Briscoe, the wake, the air of the car, he no longer had the grip. So, it was definitely a shock, because with the way he came up through the field on that restart and just got the second so quickly, it looked like he absolutely was going to win the race. But instead, he misses the playoffs for the first time since 2012, and he misses his first chance to win the Southern 500 since winning back in 2008. And he's wanting to keep that winning streak alive. It's been great. The team has 3 top 5 finishes. They're not wins, but and getting that streak to 20 seasons, it's looking more and more likely that they could do it, which is something that we really honestly couldn't see, just a couple months ago when everything was going wrong. But to Kyle's point, he said that he's not going to be afraid to push the issue if it means going for wins. And he said, quote, "The number of second and third place finishes I've had in the next-gen car are disgusting. And since the next-gen car, he's won 4 races, but he's finished second or third a total of 14 times.
That is a hard pill to swallow. I will circle back to the win thing in a second. But it's really a season for what-ifs for that team, right? If Larson doesn't run out of fuel in front of them at Nashville, they gain a bunch of points there. They have the mishap at Iowa early in the race that could cost them points. Running out of fuel after getting spun by Chastain on the last lap at Sonoma. Gateway with Larson again. If they don't have those moments go wrong, they could have easily pointed their way in with the run they've been on recently. And now going back to the wins, he's been really close the past couple weeks. They've been a lot faster. The 3 cars had speed as well. Yeah, there's guys that are fighting for a championship, but a 20 consecutive win streak, or a 20-season consecutive win streak, is significant. And I think that's more than worthy of fighting a playoff driver for in the playoffs. If it's him versus a playoff driver, he has every right to go after that win and be physical for that win if he needs to, because that's a significant milestone.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've seen, especially look at 2022 where we had 19 winners, the entire first round was drivers that didn't even make the playoffs winning. And also, to mention that point, I think the biggest what if for them was obviously that Atlanta finish being just 7/1000ths away. And if you think about it, there's just so many. There were 15 winners in the regular season, just one short of 16 we saw in 2022. And the only reason why we had 2 drivers qualifying points, those being Truex and Gibbs, is because Austin Dillon's didn't count. But like, think about all the what ifs too. Like, Logano makes it because there's 5 overtimes and everyone runs out of gas at Nashville. Suarez makes it by .03. Chris Buescher, who we'll get to in a moment, misses it by .0001 at Kansas and gets wrecked out of the lead at Darlington in May. I mean, if we keep going down the list, Austin Cindric makes it because Ryan Blaney runs out of fuel at Gateway while leading. Harrison Burton has the restart of his life while being 34th in points to lead the final lap at Daytona and put the Wood Brothers in. There are just so many what ifs that, it's kind of incredible that it really all came down to this one race with everything that happened this season.
Absolutely, and something that was lost on the night actually was the regular season title battle. Kyle Larson came in, I believe, 17 points back of Tyler Reddick. He needed to have a really solid night to get to Reddick, and it almost happened. But Tyler Reddick capped off the regular season championship. It was a hard-fought night for Reddick. I'll let you explain that one a little more.
Yes, so Reddick finished 10th, but it might be the hardest fought just finish of his career. He had Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Tiger Woods on the hood of his car, and I guess it's only fitting that he had the equivalent of Michael Jordan's flu game. He was, first stage, he was feeling awful. He had been feeling unwell all weekend. He almost got sick, and he ultimately didn't, but, he was just completely out of it, completely feeling it, but he had such a good car. He scored just enough stage points, and he finished 10th. I think to beat Larson for the regular season title by 1 point. I think if anything that shows that Tyler Reddick is a great race car driver and a really tough one at that too. I mean, tonight he put his blood, sweat, tears, and a bunch of other bodily functions I probably shouldn't even mention on this video on the line, and in the end it all paid off.
Yeah, if you want to know what those bodily functions are, go check out Twitter. You'll find it really quickly. Probably the first thing when you open the app, actually. And people are going to talk about, the what-ifs for Larson, but you can say that about anybody. Tyler Reddick, there's so many moments throughout the season that he could have gained a point here or a point there. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I don't know if you can, but I mean, Darlington, duh, going for the win here in May. Yeah. That one cost him 20 or so points at the end of that race. So it's easy to say that about any driver, and you can't knock Tyler Reddick for that. He had an incredible season. They had it to this point, and they've come on really strong late in the summer. They absolutely earned this regular season title.
Absolutely. And to that point, he lost 30 positions at Darlington, but every single driver has those. It's a 26-race season, and with Larson, we'll get to his day in a moment, but I think many people are going to point to the Coke 600. He did not start because it rained in Indianapolis as the reason of why, he didn't win it. But, I mean, there's 26 races. It's hard to pin on just one. If we think about just last couple months, wrecked by himself at Chicago while running third, wrecked by himself at Michigan on a restart while leading the most laps. If neither of those happen, he wins this going. By the way, you can't just pin it all on one race. We were on 20. There's 26 races in the regular season for a reason, but to Larson's credit tonight, he entered 17 down, and with how good Reddick is at Darlington, he did everything he needed to, for the first 337 laps to win that title. He swept the stages from lap 46 to 337. He led 263 of the 292 laps in that span, but Chase Briscoe just really came alive. His car really came to life at the end, and Larson ultimately just ran out of gas, ran out of steam, and he was only able to finish fourth.
Yeah, I talked to him after the race, and I asked him where he thought it got away from him, and he said they didn't really think they did anything wrong. It was just a racing deal. They were in position before Ross stayed out, and when Ross stayed out, it put him on the bottom of the front row. Ross cleared him into one with a good jump and held him up, and from that point, he got the side draft from Ty Gibbs. That stalled him out of the backstretch, and Chase Briscoe made a fantastic move into 3 to win the race. And then I asked him, where do you feel like you could have gotten that one position back? What stands out to you the most? And he didn't mention the Coke 600 first. He mentioned Iowa. He mentioned, I'm blanking, Michigan, and then he mentioned Chicago. Sorry. Yeah, he mentioned those 3 first, and then he said the Coke 600 if he had just gotten a start. So he spotted the field of race. and came up one spot short. That, too, just like Reddick, is a really impressive regular season. They have to be the two favorites going into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Larson's going to enter with the most playoff points by far. Christopher Bell's going to be second. Reddick with those 15 playoff points, he's going to be third. They look to have the edge over kind of the rest of the playoff field in terms of that safety net, which is going to be so important, especially considering that we got Atlanta, Watkins Glen, and Bristol coming up. 3 races that can be absolutely wild and unpredictable, especially if we get those tires that wear out very fast at Watkins Glen like we've been promised. So, it's looking good for them, but also we need to talk about the drivers that fell just short today. Martin Truex Jr. needed an absolute disaster to not make it, and it almost happened. He made a mistake, crashed on lap 2, took himself out in Ryan Blaney. By the time the dust settled, he made it by 6 points, just 6 points when he entered 58 above the cut. Ty Gibbs was the other driver to make it on points. He made it 12 above. Just on the outside looking in, Chris Buescher, he finished 6th. As I said, he was so close to wins at Kansas and Darlington, but he's out. Bubba Wallace won the pole today, did almost everything he needed to, but got caught up in a late wreck, finished 16th. And Ross Chastain, who just hasn't had the speed all year, didn't have the speed tonight either, but was able to at least capitalize and finish 5th. To finish 5th, despite the race not really going his way, not really being a factor. But again, Buescher was obviously frustrated just because even without the win, he is the 4th best average finish of all drivers this season. They've been really in contention. He's 11th in the regular season points, and just didn't go their way. I mean, that's okay. Say what you will about the playoffs, but in the regular season, it is incredible. There's so much drama between the regular season title, the playoff cut line, and all of that really came to head in just an incredible Southern 500. Again, I think one of the funner races we've covered this year.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a point about the Southern 500 being what it was tonight in a second. First of all, I'm going to take the blame for Martin Truex Jr. I picked him yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I jinxed him because I told Steven here, watch, I'm going to jinx him, and I did on lap 2. So sorry to any Martin Truex Jr. fans out there. Blame me. Chris Buescher. They didn't really have the speed tonight that we thought they would. They didn't have the car that they had in the spring, but nonetheless, they fought, they clawed, and they were where they needed to be at the end if it wasn't for Chase Briscoe winning. If it wasn't for the new winner, they did everything right except for win the race. And unfortunately, sometimes we've seen it comes down to even when you think you're safe on points, you have to win the race. We saw it 2 years ago with Austin Dillon when Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr. were fighting for a playoff spot, and it was, oh, well, as long as we don't see a new winner, they're both going to make it. And then Austin Dillon wins the race, and we're like, oh, well, now one of them's out. We saw the same thing here tonight with Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace as well. They did so many things right tonight. They had a really fast race car, a rocket ship. Early in the race, they were one of the only cars that could keep up with the 5 and the 14, and he gets caught up in a late race wreck that was no fault of his own. That's kind of been the story of his season. Caught up in somebody else's mess. It happened at Michigan. And then Ross, they just haven't had it. That's kind of the surprise of the season, really, is that they have not had speed at all this year. Trackhouse as a whole, Suarez has not been great either, and he's not, let's just say he doesn't have very much momentum going into this 10-race stretch. So, to sum it up, with the playoff cutoff being here, I think in the future this is something NASCAR should look to bringing back. There would need to be adjustments with how the schedule's laid out, potentially even the playoff format. We don't need to get into all that. A 3-race final round would be fantastic, but that's a story for another day. The final race of the regular season being here made for such compelling storylines because say what you want about the racing at Daytona, but it's not always in the driver's hands. Tonight it was. It was in Chase Briscoe's hands whether or not they made the playoffs, and he went out and did everything in his racing ability to put that team in the playoffs. And there wasn't any outside factors that stopped him from doing it, and it made for some great racing. And I think that's something the series should look to circling back to in the future.
I'm going to second that. Daytona they released the schedules this week. Daytona will in fact be the regular season finale again. Last year, Darlington ended up being it this year just because of the 2-week Olympic break kind of pushed everything back a week. But again, I think going into this, we thought, Darlington, it's a great race, but it's probably going to be pretty cut and dry. It's not going to have the same drama as Daytona, but I don't think any of us could have predicted the action and just how intense it truly would be, especially in one of NASCAR's biggest crown jewels, one of its biggest endurance races on the schedule. You know, again, just a really, fantastic week overall. It's gonna be fun for the playoffs. Some other notable storylines before we take off. 2311 from starting up 5 years ago, or just 4.5 years ago, to regular season champions. It's been quite a rise for them. Denny Hamlin also got in on the jokes on Twitter saying, "I've won a championship," asterisk, as an owner. So, and then also in other news, the late chaos, Corey LaJoie finished 9th. It's his first top 10 on a non-super speedway in the Cup Series. He's looking for a ride, so that's a big shot in the arm for him in that 7 team. And again, there's just so much that happened. We were excited to bring it all to you. And next week we got Atlanta, and it's going to be a fun 10 races. Buckle up.
Absolutely. The playoffs start, like he said, next weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So for all of your playoff content that you're going to need, follow along right here at Frontstretch for the next 10 weeks, as we're going to be bringing you pretty much everything we can to cover the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series playoffs. But that's just about going to do it for us. For Steven Stumpf, I've been Chase Folsom. Good night from the Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway, and we will see you guys at Atlanta.
Jared Haas with Frontstretch.com. Come back soon for more great racing videos. And if you like us, make sure to hit that subscribe button.